David, thank you. Thank you for your leadership on this issue, which unfortunately is sorely lacking from what we've seen in state government in recent years. It was 2012 that in my county we started a heroin initiative, going back that far. This is not news. The time for just talking about this issue is long past. We have had now a couple years, at least a couple years, to say, okay, how are we going to make sure that we're taking the two-pronged approach that David talked about? One is being very tough on the law enforcement side of it. And the second is to make sure that those that need treatment are given that treatment in as expeditious a manner as we possibly can. So what has happened in the last couple years? Well, first of all, local law enforcement has been partially defunded by the cuts to local government. One of the first conversations I had about a law enforcement topic when I started traveling the state a couple years ago was from a small county sheriff that said, we are getting inundated by heroin dealers and heroin usage, and we've had to cut back on our intervention and our drug interdiction because of the cuts to local government funds. So this is not a new story. This is something that local governments have been dealing with now for a couple years. Now on the treatment side of it, because it's not all just about enforcement, although those that deal heroin we should be as aggressive as possible, and we should start doing on a statewide basis that what we're talking about doing in my part of Ohio, which is treating every scene of a heroin overdose as basically a potential homicide because of the individuals that are dealing this deadly substance to citizens here in Ohio. So that definitely should be done. But on top of that, treatment is so absolutely essential. And for the state to basically, by their own admission, make a bureaucratic decision, a decision that's fixing in their estimation a budgetary problem, and they're fixing it by in this actual fiscal year in 2014 is going to take money away from treatment is an incredibly foolish decision. There had been some suggestions from some nonprofit organizations that if they were going to change the way that they were going to budget these funds, that they would at least have a phase-in period so that we weren't going to lose funds that were necessary for treatment. And that request has fallen on deaf ears. So there's a $20 million real cut that local governments are going to be experiencing. And that is going to directly translate into fewer people getting treatment. So this is an essential issue, and it should be more than a PR issue. This is an issue where it is a life and death issue. David and I both feel strongly about it. David has been very aggressive in terms of making sure that this is on everybody's radar screen. And in Cuyahoga County, we've been working with law enforcement, but also treatment providers. And it would help if we had a real partner at the state level. We don't have that. So we wanted to have this event here today to make sure that we're drawing attention to that, and maybe it's not too late for the state to reconsider what we think was a very poor decision.